This is Inside Outlands. I am your host, Nateryl, and joining me today is Wes Furtive. How's it going, man?
Hey, it's going well, man. How are you?
Oh, doing good. I found your videos probably like over a year ago for another game called Darkfall: Rise of Aegon, and so I kind of knew who you were, and I saw you were Twitch streaming Outlands a couple weeks ago, and said, man, I gotta talk to this guy.
Man, I wish I had started streaming a long time ago on Darkfall, but just the way these open world PK centric games are, it was just difficult. So it took me a while to actually click the button, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I mean, have you noticed a difference from trying to make YouTube content that's kind of, your videos are always pretty short, like under 5 minutes, and now you're just streamer conscious gaming, dealing with chat, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. Like, we'll get into it, but with my build, it started becoming popular around Christmas. And since then, every day I have people like blowing me up on Discord, which is great because I love to help. But it just got me thinking like, man, I should just stream. I should just turn it on and see what happens so I can interact with this community.
I should have warned you. So I brought on the number one gold earner in the Shard Stormy about taming, and that guy still gets messages daily from this podcast with taming questions. And
man, I can imagine. I messaged him a few times myself early on.
Yeah, difference between him and you already have yourself out there with Twitch streaming, and he had no idea what he's getting himself into.
Yeah, Stormy's a good dude, excellent gamer for sure.
Yeah, I made a stealth backstab dexxer thing with actually no idea what you're streaming about. I knew you were streaming Outlands. I even looked at one of the Twitch videos, but didn't watch the whole thing. I had no idea what you're streaming, and I was watching the dexxer suits, or the what do they call them, the shadow suits, go from like the cheapest suit, or one of the cheaper suits, to probably mid range. Like, it's not a command lyric suit, but it's expensive, and I'm broke, and I'm barely making money on this build. And the suit cost is rising. And then I finally watched like a whole one of your streams and realized that one of the reasons why this thing is blowing up on the server is actually your stream and what you're doing with the backstab.
Yeah, huge marketing ploy by me. Been planning it since the beginning. No, not really.
If you were a smarter, more economic driven player, maybe you would have had tons of shadow cores. And
yeah, no, I do have a lot because I died a lot early on, and I hated being on cooldown. So I would just like rage buy everything in the buy channel so I could quickly make another suit. Like, I don't think anyone knows this, but I had the very first aspect weapon and suit of armor on the server. Tryhard Akasha was the first to hit GM Alchemy, so he kind of had the monopoly on who got what early on. And I was handed the first suit because I was already pretty stacked when I joined Hero for a short while. And we had a system where we donated all of our aspect stuff to the guild, and then everyone kind of had just a priority of who gets what aspect based on just first come, first serve sort of thing. So I got the shadow suit right away.
Oh wow, yeah, that's pretty impressive. I bought my first dexter suit maybe a month ago, and I just got my shadow suit this week. So I'm definitely not. I just hit tier 2 in the shadow suit. So I have a long way to go until it's as effective as what you're running with, though.
Yeah, it's quite a grind, but it does grow in power level, like noticeably every level, where some other aspects might not be quite as apparent whenever you level up. Shadow really scales. Like, you'll be hitting new highs every single day.
Yeah, I mean, let's just get into it. So it's a stealth backstab dexter, and that's what you're running through with most of your streams. I think you're doing like a summoner or some other stuff. You're all over the template build forum helping people out. But first, we should definitely talk about the stealth gameplay and the how it works on the server, because it's a different kind of what do you call it? Like a play style, really,
Yeah, it's very non-traditional. It's not like everyone was running summoners early on. People were grinding out tamers. Dexxer is really simple and cheap. Bard is the obvious choice from like past Ultima Onlines. And backstabbing, aside from maybe if you want to get into ninjutsu or something from Age of Shadows, Samurai Empire, that sort of thing, is completely new to Ultima Online, and that's why it caught my eye. And also, if you don't recognize like my last name, my gamer tag is Furtive, and that comes from the synonym for rogue. And I love playing backstabber, sneaky, stealthy, rogue type characters in video games. So I was drawn to it really quick, and I started researching, and I saw some huge damage potential. So I was like, I have to give this a shot.
Now, so I had two guildmates pretty early on, maybe the first like 2 or 3 weeks. They both made backstabbers and did extensive testing. Somewhere along the way, their numbers and your numbers were not aligned because they both concluded this was a complete waste of time, and it kind of scared me off even attempting it until another guildmate was telling me about the success he was having. And maybe it was those two guys didn't have a shadow suit. Is that really the key?
Early on, I don't think so, because I was killing high-end content like right from the get-go. I actually did a boss and a mini-boss solo in the second week of the game, which they've made some adjustments to like aggro range and how far away you can be to hide and that sort of thing. But I still continued to just plow through all the content. No issue. If anything, their changes only further like pushed other builds away from being able to do the high-end stuff at a low level. But it's just such a, it's all in. It's all in on 20 or 30 seconds worth of damage in one shot.
Yeah, you basically hide up, and then I don't know how much time, like 10 seconds later, you can stealth up, and then you can take a couple steps or whatever, get close to the mob. I run it with a heavy crossbow, but you could use a bow, you could use any weapon you want really, and then I think that maybe the key thing those two guys were missing was disarm, because then you turn on disarm, and which is a huge damage boost to your attack. And then he also loaded mine up with tracking and camping. You just stack on all those Outlands damage boost. That's basically the idea. And then if you miss, you just reset, fire again. You go off like behind the corner, hide, and come back and shoot. Whereas my dexxer, I had to, you're always just running into something, turn your shield on, smashing face, go to the next mob. And this build here, it's a lot more patience, slow going, kind of attack, reset. So it's very interesting to play.
Yeah, it's more my style too. I like being patient, methodical, deliberate, tactical, strategic. It was a lot more fun for me to just push those numbers. And early on, I started with healing, anatomy, resist, the typical Ultima Online setup, and I just added stealth to it. And I was like, okay, I'm good to go. I'm a backstabber now. And the first big hit I did, I was showing my buddy because he didn't quite understand what my build was, because, like I said, it's new to Ultima Online. And I was like, watch this. I want you to hit this Etten. And this is his first day. And he hit it for like 40 damage. And you could see a small bit of its life move. And I was like, all right, now watch me. So I hid. 10 seconds later, I stealth. And I fire for 392 damage with a heavy crossbow. And at this point, I'm mind blown myself, because that's the biggest damage I've hit. It happened to be a special hit. And he was just like floored and immediately started to make my build. But a few days into it, I started realizing, like, man, I'm getting pretty good at this. I'm not taking much damage. Why am I running healing? Could I push it some more? And I started researching more and more on the skill summary page of all these awesome skill revamps. And I was like, I'm just gonna do it. So on, I think it was November 7th, I messaged Luthieus on Discord, and I asked a question about disarm. And I was like, so this skill, it says it's basically a 25% multiplier for whatever it's applied to. I was like, is this going to apply on the hit that you do the disarm? Does that hit benefit from the damage, or is it only the following hits? And as soon as he confirmed that it was the hit that actually disarms also is boosted by the multiplier, I was like, I'm all in. So I dumped healing, anatomy, resist, went straight camping, tracking, disarm, and never looked back.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. I'm not used to running no healing at all, and I've had to get used to that. Carry pots, so when you do get whacked every now and then, you go, duck around a corner, heal. I'm also learning all of these stealth mechanics. I've never done it in UO, so I'm like how to hide, where to hide, what unhides you. Walking over a mob by accident, that unhides you. Drinking a pot, that unhides you. Kind of all these weird little intricacies that come with running the build.
Yeah, there's a lot of small details. Like, I had a lot of people messaging me early on, like fantastic Ultima Online players and gamers in general, being like, what's complicated. When I would tell them, I would warn them basically when they wanted to try it. I'm like, you're going to die a lot. And they'd be like, bullcrap, I'm amazing at this game. I never die. And I'm like, okay, just heed my warnings when I'm trying to coach them over Discord. And a week later, they'd be like, man, I got to give you props. I put on my shadow suit for the first time and died in 5 minutes to some random bleed or a mind blast from across the map type of thing. And it's way more in-depth than just hide, stealth, shoot, repeat.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I think I ran with my heavy armor, no stealth suit for like 3 weeks, trying to work out all the kinks. I'm also new to UO, so I haven't really played UO that much before Outlands. So I'm glad I did it while it was cheap, even though I guess the cost now with the revamp isn't that much different because it just like applies it to your regular armor. But either way, I kind of had a chance to learn the play style before I stuck on the shadow suit, which is also cool. The shadow suit gives you a defense boost that I didn't have before, and accuracy, so I'm hitting more often. It just kind of pairs really well with the build and how you play it.
Yeah, that was funny on the forums when people started getting into the shadow suit. They're like, "Man, I just missed. This suit sucks. It sucks when you waste 20 seconds and you shoot and miss and you don't get anything out of it. It's useless. Shadow's garbage." Meanwhile, I've done upwards of 10 big bosses and 30 mini bosses solo. I'm farming high-end content, doing 1,000 to 1,500 damage a shot, and everyone on the forums complaining. And next thing I know, they buff it, and I'm just like, whoa! I've been wanting to make sure they don't nerf it, let alone give it a buff. But then I guess if you compare it to the consistency of all these other builds, it's a lot more under the radar, and we're not pushing like insane DPS GPM like a tamer would. So it makes sense. Like, you don't want to just waste all that time up front. So the buff actually made a lot of sense to me. I just was already high aspect at the time, so I just didn't quite understand. But after seeing the complaints, I got it. But it is solid, and the defense part, that is critical, and that is actually what made me want to switch later on from archery to maces.
Well, before we get to that, what was the buff? Because I didn't buy my suit before. So what did they change in the aspect suit revamp?
Well, this wasn't just the revamp. This is just a random buff in a patch, and they gave Shadow armor a scaling 12.5 to 50% accuracy bonus on your backstab hit based on your level in Shadow, which is enormous. Like, backstab already has a plus 25% chance to hit. So GM versus GM skills against a monster, you have a 75% chance to hit, assuming there's no other weird factors. So this pretty much pushes you to guaranteed to land your backstab after just a few levels in Shadow.
Yeah, the accuracy is a very big deal. I think I was missing one guy, like the sixth time in a row I missed. I was pissed off. I was messaging the guy in my guild that told me about the build. Like, are you sure this thing is fun? Because I'm not having fun right now, dude.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. Like, early on, I didn't notice it all that much, but it's definitely apparent if you ever died and then had to run without Shadow for a bit and you lose that accuracy, you're just like, man, you just take it for granted, but it's huge.
I died a lot for sure. It's gotten a lot better that I've learned the play style. It's gotten a lot better that I got in the shadow suit and got all the bonuses from it. And it's getting better every time I tier it up too. I've also kind of learned like where to fight, which mobs to go after. There's those kind of tricks too. And just how to hide, where to hide, how to dip in and out. But when you have to reset every 30 seconds and you miss, you do all that setup and you have to go back and do it again, it can get frustrating early on. And you start trying to push that so you disarm, you get a damage boost for, I don't know, for like 10 seconds or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start trying to push that damage, and then you eke out of the disarm window, and then your damage aren't doing so much, and they hit you with a lightning bolt or e-bolt or whatever, and then down you go because you have no healing. So you pop that one potion, you don't get around the corner, and down you go.
Yeah, that pot timer will get you. You'll pot and you'll feel good, but then you'll get bled, and then maybe there's a stealth monster there blocking your way out, and it can go terrible really quick if you're not like super experienced. These dungeons are extremely dangerous, and a build running heavy armor that's susceptible to Mind Blast with no extra healing aside from a 10-second potion, bleeds, diseases, that sort of thing. It's been my bane. I died a lot early on, but after a few levels and a lot of deaths and experiencing all of the content in all of the dungeons, I got really confident with everything and haven't died to PVM in a long time, really.
Yeah, I've not seen you die in a long time. Me, not so much. I think I died like 2 days ago doing it. It's definitely taking getting used to. What I did early in is I just slowed everything way down. I stopped pushing it. I just reset. If I missed, I would reset. If I didn't kill him on that hit, I'd reset. And until I got used to it and what my guy could handle at his current power rate, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I recommend everyone too. I tell everyone, start with a stealth archer, and your number one priority is do not take damage. Reset. Like that vampire that's redlined, that just needs one more hit. If you miss, he might be able to kill you in 3.75 seconds before you shoot again. So it's better to just not take the chance, reset to hide, come back and get the guaranteed shot with stealth, and loot your kill.
Yeah, it's definitely good advice. So you mentioned earlier, I got you off it. You went from archery to melee, and so I guess why and yeah, why?
I just wanted to push the damage. Like early on, that was my initial goal with the build, like when I started. So I wanted to push the numbers on Outlands and just see what I could come up with. And I was thinking, maybe I can one-shot some of the really, really high-end stuff. And I see all these potential multipliers, which we know from gaming, multipliers are huge. I come from Dungeons & Dragons Online, Diablo 3, and even some Darkfall. Like, I love to push the numbers in templates and see what you can achieve. So seeing all these multipliers, I got to looking for an extra one. And macing was the last thing because the special lowering their armor is huge, especially when we're talking about like massive damage. I mean, if you're swinging for 1,000 and something has high armor and it's reducing a third of that, that's a huge chunk of your damage. But if you can get them to 0, that's huge. So I just wanted to give it a shot and ended up actually liking it more than the archery. It's just more dangerous and requires more understanding of how fragile you actually are to play it effectively.
Yeah, I guess that would explain why I get bigger hits in a group, because the dexxer, the mace dexxer, and then the party is getting his special on the mob, and then my shot comes through with the lowered armor.
Exactly. And bards too, they're scaling backstabbers like crazy. I've ran a couple duos with Disharmony, and he's pushing my damage like 60% plus of what it normally is. So we're just like clearing content. Typically Cavernum, that seems like the only thing that can really cater to our duo speed and damage potential.
Well, because they're talking about like Cavernum level 3.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, all those dragons and demons and.
Yeah, it's just a large, wide open space with good density, but it's spread out just enough. I think it's good. It's probably the best group farming area. You can argue that Aegis is really good, but I tend to stay away from Aegis just because it's super dangerous, easy to grief.
Well, Aegis, you gotta hit him once too, so you definitely need that partner to come in there and whack him one time, and then you can pop out and stealth backstab him.
There's some tricks to that too. Like you can throw an explosion potion, for example, and hide. So a lot of the times I will say you've got a strange monster right here on your right and a blood elemental on your left. You can shoot the blood elemental and run towards the strange monster, shoot that once, and as it shifts, it's not aggroed on you anymore, and you can hide right in its face. And you have 2 monsters ready to go.
Ah, that's a nice tip.
Yeah, there's lots of little tricks. You can also throw an explosion potion at a third one if it's around to get them set up. And it's good to do that because if you're using Shadow, if you get that Shadow proc, you want a full HP monster nearby that you can use that proc on.
Like I'll go out for an hour and it won't proc once.
Yeah, it's not very... I mean, even in Shadow level 10 with a heavy crossbow, it's only 2%. And so it'll happen occasionally, but it's more of a super exciting upside rather than something you depend on. The true power just comes from the armor, the multiplier boosting your damage.
Yeah, and it gives you something like I don't know, another 50 steps you can go in stealth, but I guess it's a fun thing. Well, not a super useful thing.
Yeah, you've got 30 seconds to execute that attack when it happens. So people see me doing it on stream all the time, like on an Elder Vamp. I'll get that proc and I'll like slowly. I say run, but I'm gonna walk it over to the next strongest thing in the area and use it on that, and then rush back to what I was killing in the first place when I got the proc.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't realize I had the 30 seconds. I mean, like I said, it doesn't proc very much. I don't know all the little tricks yet, but
yeah, switching to maces too. There's a lot of synergy in the build and mace fighting in general, aside from just the fact that like I'm more so melee. There's a lot of synergy in the build with melee once you're higher level and you have an understanding of the game. So you come out of stealth and you backstab, and we're running disarm. Disarm is a 10-second duration where the monster's taking 25% more damage and you have 25% more chance to hit it. Also, coming out of stealth, you have a 10-second damage reduction buff. So I usually fight for 8 to 9 seconds. So I swing my mace 5 to 6 times, and that's actually given me a lot more procs than I used to get with a heavy crossbow just because I'm swinging more often. So I can actually fish for those procs.
yeah, heavy crossbow is anciently slow. You're waiting forever for that next shot to go off, whereas a mace, you're using a one-hander or two-hander?
I use the one-hander because I like to chug pots. I don't ever want to drop my weapon to drink a pot just because that guarantees I'm going to get hit by something.
Right, yeah, it makes sense too.
I do backstab with a quarterstaff as of, the past couple weeks. And then I switch to a mace immediately for follow-up because the quarterstaff has a really tight damage range. So it might not hit as hard as, say, a Warhammer could, but I don't like the huge variance. I really like the tight damage range of the quarterstaff. I would trade the consistency for low lows and high highs any day. Yeah, and arms lower gives you hamstring too, which is a neat little tip. People see me do it, I'm sure. As you leave, stuff chases you, so you might have to run for, a while before it's out of range because you need to be 13 steps away to hide, I think. But what you can do is hamstring on your way out, and the monster just sits there for 6 seconds, so you can safely duck around the corner and hide without having to chase you.
That's true, because even though you have all the skills with an archery build to do hamstring, your weapon won't allow it.
Right, that's a pretty big upside. But, I mean, similarly, you can take another shot if the monster's not too dangerous with a crossbow and fish for a hinder. And you're likely to get one anyway off just the initial backstab with the bonus to that.
All right, we are like 20 minutes into this build. I don't think we've actually laid out exactly what it is. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, sure. So my build is 120 stealth, 120 camping, 100 hiding, 100 tactics, 100 tracking, 100 weapon, which I recommend archery to start, mace fighting for later, and 80 arms lore.
Oh, interesting. So I have 100 arms lore and 100 stealth. You're saying I should take arms lore down to 80 and get stealth up?
Absolutely. I think arms lore in general, it's just the best bang for your buck. 80 points skill in the game, just because it gives you that 8% special and it gives you the disarm. But stealth is actually a scalar, so if you go to 120, you're going to be doing 20% more damage on your backstabs. Just that alone. That's a multiplier, just the same as disarm is a 25% multiplier.
Okay, I didn't realize the stealth was adding a multiplier. See, if I would read the skills instead of, instead of just playing the game, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll do that. Well, actually, I'll do that once I'm done getting all the skill orbs and the skill points.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth it early on, even with just 700 points to shoot for the 120 stealth and the 80 arms lore. The extra 20 points is not necessary at all. It's just a luxury thing, more or less. But I prefer camping at 120 because I really like the fast campfires and I like the custom hiking locations. On top of being able to carry like 23,000 gold back to the bank on a trip, the weight limit is huge.
Yeah, that's the other thing I did is I had forensic eval at first and no camping, mainly because it's the same damage boost, I think. But I was loaded up so much on leather. I was coming back from trips earlier, and so plus I had to deal with a rune book. So now when I switched to camping, I'm no longer getting the weight from all the leather. I get the same damage boost and all the traveling and the huge increased weight.
Yeah, and I'm carrying stacks of potions too, so that's super handy for me because it boosts your item limit and your weight limit, and all my potions can definitely take up a lot of room.
Yeah, what all potion taken out? Like just a regular PvP gambit.
I carry 25 to 30 greater heals, 20 greater cures, about 15 magic resist, and about 15 refresh. And then occasionally I'll carry some explosions just in case I want to throw them. It's not really necessary. And then of course you got to have your emergency strength pot in case you get overweight.
So when you are using the magic resistance before you hit a magic mob or in PvP?
The greater resist potion doesn't work in PvP. It's just a PvM thing, but it's actually better than the skill against monsters. So it's kind of a way to shave off those skill points and let you invest in something else if you want to skip on the resist spells. I actually use it against almost every monster. It only lasts 2 minutes, so a lot of people say it's worthless, but I mean, I drink them like water. I do not like taking damage. And as an example, I've been flame striked by a drowned demon for 8 damage coming out of stealth after I drank my magic resist potion. But then, it'll wear off and I'll mess up and I'll get flame striked across the room from a vampire for 49 damage. So the difference in stacking all that damage reduction is huge between just the flat damage reduction from the armor and the 30% from the greater resist.
So you mentioned attacking mini bosses and bosses. I tried this the other night in Cavernum with a buddy of mine. Of course, both of us are kind of new to playing around the build, and we were doing okay until it got a bunch of ads. But how have you done? You said you done like 30 of them, something like that?
Yeah, I did a lot before Christmas, before the server really got busy. There wasn't a lot of people doing bosses early on just because people weren't quite strong enough. They thought bosses were too hard. No one was really scouting them very often. Lately, it's almost impossible to get a boss because there's a handful of guilds like LOD and Money, for example, that just have them on cooldown basically. But early on, that was my thing. I was the boss killer. That was one of the reasons I joined up with Hero. I played with Akasha on Darkfall, and he reached out to me and was asking why I was solo. And they just wanted to get me in there and team up to do bosses whenever it's ideal. But I continued to do them solo, and I trained a few buddies in the stealth archer ways while I was in there, and they were able to do some as well because it's just so safe and it's so much damage up front. You just shoot, reset, and you dip. And if you can get it undisturbed, uninterrupted long enough, I mean, you can take out that HP pool without much issue.
I guess it just take its amount of time, right? Time and effort, and then being left alone at it, which is probably impossible now. Although we are getting those changes where they're going to let you summon bosses for a guild. Although you could still get bothered by the server for those.
Yeah, it's really difficult right now. I think I can do some mini bosses in 25 minutes, and the fastest I've ever done a big boss is 90 minutes. But even 25 minutes, you're still likely to get scouted by someone picking dungeons. They're just coming through to check the chests, and they see you in there, and they tell their guild, and there you go. It's just blown. And you're not a PvPer with this build. You're food. So I just forfeit no matter what. Like if I've invested 45 minutes into a boss, if someone shows up, I'm out. Doesn't matter who it is. I'm just gone. It's a waste of time. Good practice. Try it again next time.
Yeah, so that is the other part of this build. I have no character with tracking until I made this stealth archer. And holy crap. How did I do dungeons on my other dexxer without tracking? I'm going to have to completely redo his build and fit in tracking if I'm ever going to play him again. I can't imagine walking into these things without having all the benefits it gives you. You fire on the red tracker. It's like 100 steps away. You start to see him with 10 from stealth. And the second you get him on, you just book it, get the hell out.
Yeah, it has saved me for months and months and months and months. So much grief. It's such just perfect information. And it's probably the ultimate PvM dungeon skill. Not so much in the wilderness because people can recall right on top of you, but particularly dungeons that have one way in, a long winding path to get there, you absolutely know when reds are coming. Obviously, you can't do anything about the blue PKs, but it's a really, really good heads up for people who want to go all in on PVM and not worry about being able to quote unquote fight the PKs when they arrive.
Yeah, I mean, I've been dropped on a lot on my other dexter. He's just a straight up warrior. He could actually fight back. He's got magic resist and stuff, but they still have the drop on you. They usually come in 2 or 3 pairs, and it's just maybe if you're better at the game. I'm not very good at the game, so I usually always end up getting dropped. So yeah, the tracking, even with a small group, you get one guy with tracking in there, it could protect lots of regular players because he could just tell the group when it's time to bail. And the one time we didn't listen to our tracker when we were in like the Ice Fortress dungeon. It's not really a dungeon. It's the outside dungeon thing they have in Outlands. We didn't listen to them. Sure enough, it wasn't like 5-10 seconds later, they were right there on top of us. And had we listened and gated out, we would all been fine. But
yeah, when it comes up on screen, you have to recognize it, and you just got to dip. Like, even if it says so and so's to the southwest, 79 spaces away, that sounds like a lot, but they're going to be on you in like less than 10 seconds. And if it's like you said, if they're a pair of mages that are ready with explosions, or one has explosion and one has paralyze, if they dump on you, you're not supposed to get away. I mean, you're just supposed to die to that. And they're probably running tracking too. They know you're there. They know which direction you are. They know how many people are around you. They know how safely they can engage. So I mean, it's got perks for both sides.
yeah, are you seeing anyone detect hidden and kind of reach you out? Or I think I've seen you just book it straight to the gate and get out usually. But
No, there's one guy. What was his name? Boris Krishenko, I think. He's like king of Aegis Keep. Me and him had several encounters early on in Aegis. He's never got me. He's gotten close. He's looted some of my boss loot a time or two, but he has never managed to get me. As good a player and as good a mage as he is, and he is the counter to my setup. He is a mage, so he can cast Invis on himself, immediately following his Detect Hidden, which brings me out into the open with all these demons and whatnot. He can wall of stone. It's been brutal. We've fought a few times, but what I was wanting to point out is the build is so in on damage. Even though it can't like brawl straight up with a good mage or a dexter, it still shoots like a truck. You can hit someone for 50 damage on a good shot. So he was not exactly having free reign over me. But yeah, the detect is mainly... That's actually the only time I've experienced it, I think. It was just him.
yeah, I wonder if popularity rises, you start seeing these not as many tamers, but the whole server's full of backstab dexters. You might get detected. I don't think it's going to be that common. The build's fun, but it takes commitment. It takes a lot to see through it, and then you got to be willing to wait to have the fun. Although it is fun watching all that damage just get stacked on all at once.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be as popular as it has been lately. Like, I've definitely brought it into the spotlight with my stream, and there's a load of people like pushing forward and buying shadow aspect stuff, but I really don't think the prices are going to go a whole lot higher. They could, but even if they do, I don't think it's going to stay there, because I would say at least more than half of the people who try it don't stick with it because they get frustrated. They're not patient enough. They're not disciplined enough. They just want to roll the tamer and steamroll and never stop. So it's a very niche playstyle. I don't think the prices are going to remain where they're at. I think you'll have some luck buying cheaper later.
Yeah, hopefully it'll take me much longer to hit tier 10 unlike you. So maybe by the time I'm buying those later mats, it'll be down a little bit. How does this thing rank amongst the tamers? And you mentioned they steamroll content, which they kind of do, and summoners are a kind of a cheap poor man's tamer, although they're very effective here and fun. But where would you put this amongst the tamer, summoners, and like peace dexers?
I've never on stream really done a DPS tracker or a GPM tracker. Maybe once or twice. But I want to say I'm very competitive with almost anyone else. Maybe a tamer with the command proc would take off. But aside from that, I think it's very competitive. If I have Mausoleum open, I can farm 40k an hour pretty easy. I can push 45, 50 DPS not without much issue because everything in there is relatively low armor. I can one-shot most of it. I don't really touch the Elder Vamps that often until I have a proc to one-shot them, so I'm not wasting a lot of time with them. And I pretty much one-shot everything else in the dungeon. So it's just a matter of killing something exactly every 30 seconds when disarm is up, more or less. So I think it's extremely competitive, but I am also extremely practiced, and I'm now tier 12 Shadow. I hit tier 10 back before Christmas, like early December, late November.
It's taken you that long to go from 10 to 12?
Well, the 10 was the cap back then.
That's right.
Yeah, it wasn't until January with the Cavernum release that they bumped that up, and that's been a huge grind. But I've also slowed down on my playing. Like, I sunk an unbelievable amount of hours into this thing. I think Stormy's the only one who beat me into tier 10, just because I was like absolutely dedicated. I'm a grinder. I love grinding. I love working for stuff. I love trying to cap out and max out. So I was all in for the first 2 months, and since the new year, I've slowed down a lot, playing 2, 3, 4 hours in every other night or so, give or take. Sometimes I'll take 2, 3 nights off. So it's been just a slow, steady process. I'm grinding, several thousand XP when I play, and like I said, I just capped out. So
yeah, so they're going to give us more here in Outlands to grind out with the chain system. Probably, I'm assuming more aspect levels, maybe other things to progress your character. What's kind of attracted you to Outlands, and why have you stuck with it this long? And I'm only saying that because we're 5 months in, and typically if you're like most MMO gamers, anything past 3 months is like a rarity. I don't know if you're different than me, but I usually bounce around a bunch, and I'm not with Outlands. Like, here I am still playing it every day 5 months later. So
yeah, that's a good point with MMOs in general, but I just don't think there's anything else great out there, and I didn't think any Ultima Online server could ever be anything more than just all the random ones we see with crazy colors and evolutions and insane fast combat. And just, I was kind of pushed away from Ultima Online for about 5 years, and I played Darkfall Rise of Aegon for its entire lifespan, basically 2.5 years, up until just after last summer. And I wasn't really looking for any games, but I was put onto it by some friends in Darkfall. They told me about this server, Outlands, and I didn't really look into it much. I didn't really want to get into anything. I was kind of trying to be more productive and focus on a few things in real life, some small financial things and whatnot. But that Saturday, I was off work when it launched, October 27th. They sent out some kind of newsletter, something notified me. And I was like, man, I don't have anything going on today. I'm going to give this a shot. So I hadn't played beta. I hadn't researched it. I hadn't looked at anything. I hopped on, and the nostalgia just came swooping in. But it was fresh at the same time, because this was a whole new world. Like, you recognize certain things, but everything's different. And then I got into the newbie dungeon, and I'm getting beat down by mongbats. I'm like, this is challenging. And then the corpse purgers, not purgers, but the corpse eaters, the little small dudes that do disease in there.
Oh, yeah.
Those things wore me out. And I'm just like, wow, this is actually kind of fun. Because I remember Ultima Online just being easy mode. And here I am struggling in the newbie dungeon. I'm like, okay, so this is challenging. And I remember looking at that they've got boss content and aspects and all this other new stuff. So I was committed at that point. I played pretty much the entire weekend straight and was hooked ever since.
So did you play Ultima Online back when it was, I guess, OSI days, before pre-tram, all that, or are you a free shard person?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
No, I started when I was 7 years old. My dad got me into it the first month that it launched, and I was court pouring people back then, 7, 8 years old, just the same. I've played every version up until now. I've played almost all the free servers, and none have hooked me like this one.
Yeah, I've tried showing my kids MMOs. They're like ages 10 to 13, and I've had a couple of them have some interest every now and then, but never anything that's really stuck. Yeah, maybe one of them will have a story one day, or I guess we're playing EVE Online like 20 years and it's still a thing. Some private server, who knows?
Yeah, everything is going private servers lately.
Where do you see the shard going? What do you want from Outlands in the future to keep everything interesting, to keep you hanging out, playing, or having fun? Is there anything you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the mastery change. That's going to be cool. But something I've been pushing for, small plug, Luthieus Owen. I've been pushing for soul stones, and they've mentioned that they are considering it because for me personally, my identity, my name, especially coming from a game like Darkfall where you have one character, one account, everything you do matters, it's important to me, and I want to maintain that. But at the same time, I have a completionist mindset. I want to do everything on one character. I want to level all the aspects on one character. So I'm hoping the soul stones will come, and I can literally grind out everything in the game. Like, I'm already now tier 5 Eldritch Summoner, full 120 Spirit Speak, 100 Magery Summoner. I've dumped my build. I've done it before. I do it routinely. It would just be a lot more convenient if there was, say, a 24-hour cooldown that you could switch builds on things that you've previously leveled up and used the scrolls for and spent the time. And it would let me test more templates, test more aspects, level more things, keep the stream fresh, potentially make YouTube guides, which is something I really want to do. You know me coming from Darkfall, I love YouTube. I just haven't had the motivation yet to sit down and take a week to make a really in-depth guide. But I would like to see that. So aside from the mastery chains, I know they're working a lot on PvP stuff, which is something I've also recently gotten into. But in general, like, I don't think I really need to be super specific. Luthieus, Owen, the team, they're awesome. They're always throwing out content. They're always coming up with something new. Expo's great. All their events are really fun. And they just keep throwing random curveballs that no one even knew was coming. That almost seems completely unnecessary, but that's what makes a sandbox MMO a sandbox. That's what makes it fun. That's what ties it all together, is all the random stuff like casino. That's going to be cool. That's going to let me go broke, which I couldn't do before because I don't really want to spend a lot of gold on a house. So that's going to be fun to sink my gold into. They're just constantly coming up with new ideas. They're very innovative and creative, and they hear the community. So all the little things that people complain about, they're taking notes of it. And, you know, a week or two later, there's this random patch that no one really knew was coming, and it fixes all those things.
Yeah, let's explain soulstones real quick. You want to do that? Because I didn't know what they were until a couple weeks ago. So tell us what those are.
So on OSI, they had soulstones, which is just this item you can get, and you can basically dump an entire skill onto that soulstone. And there, I think it was bound to character or bound to account. I think it should just be bound to character. So I would take, for example, my 120 stealth, and I would get a soulstone, which may have a gold cost or whatever they decide. Use it as a gold sink, and I will dump my 120 points of stealth onto that soulstone, and now I have 600 skill points, and my stealth is 0. If I want, I can pick that back up. It'll take it right off the soulstone, put it back on my character, and we're good to go. I could do that 7 times and dump my entire template on 7 different soulstones and be back to 0 skill. I could then grind up a full summoner mage and continue playing, and then maybe the next day use my 5-minute window to use soulstones per 24 hours to... I would have to get another soulstone, an 8th one, so that I could dump a skill onto it. But I could then take my 100 magery, dump it on my 8th soulstone, pick up my 100 tactics from before, dump my 100 avow on the one that just had the tactics, and so on. And it would allow me to switch templates back and forth. So especially with some of the achievements and the new aspects and everything, it makes a lot of sense for some people like me who want to be a completionist and try to level everything on one character.
Yeah, I've got a guilty Weebus who is number 2 achievement on the server, and yeah, that's a feat having to do that across several characters. I'm sure he would have liked to have had some of that on just one character. It does sound beneficial, especially, you're right, for coming from Darkfall, where you kind of get your one build, your one account. Even The last Darkfall they had kind of had a similar thing where you could do a build for 24 hours and switch it, or any game that works like that. Having 3 accounts here with the ability to have 6 characters per account if you pay some extra money, so at least 15, if not 18 characters, you start making some really dumb names. I ran out of names on pretty fast, and now I've got, I don't know, I'm deep into like what I named some guy in the early 90s something. Now Nateryl is my pretty boring dexxer, and I'm off playing my stealth archer. So I don't know when I'll go back to him. It would have been nice to have something like this in. I don't know what the feasibility of like getting that in the game is, but with Luthus's coding ability, I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah, I think they could swing it. Like the framework is there, the idea is there. It's been done on OSI before. It would just be more of a make sure it works perfectly, and how do we get the soul stones type of thing. But to like further expand on that, say for example, Walmart. This guy is a maxed out crafter. They add this new awesome artisan aspect, and he's a min-maxer kind of guy. He wants to level that up so he can get his exceptional crafting boost. There's no way he's ever going to do that without throwing all of his 120 crafts in the trash can. But with soulstones, he could dump, tailoring, carpentry, tinkering, alchemy, whatever, onto these soulstones and pick up some fighting skills for a day or a week or however long he wants to. Maintain his blacksmith and mining or something, because artisan's benefiting from those skills anyway. And he can go out and grind his artisan. But without soulstones, there's no way. That's just completely unrealistic. And similarly, for me, that's my biggest issue. Like, I can switch back and forth between archer, mace, mage, bard in 2 days flat. I'm very experienced with macros. I understand how the game works. I've got a lot of tools. I've got a lot of money that I can sink into it. It's not a huge deal. But say I wanted to try the new Tinker Detect Hidden Placeable Traps out, maybe with Fortune Aspect. There is no way I'm going to throw 300, 500, 700,000 gold down the drain to test to see if I like 120 tinkering, only to dump it whenever I'm bored and want to try something new. However, I would do that tomorrow if soulstones were in, because it wouldn't be wasted, and I could just continue to grind and test all of these different things. Like I would try maybe 120 carpentry artisan archer, because artisan is boosting the damage bonus you get from your craft skills. Like carpentry would make me do more damage with the bow, that sort of thing. But those skills are so expensive, you can't really justify throwing the gold in the trash, and soulstones would alleviate that issue.
Yeah, and it's the aspect system too ties in that pretty well, because it's a huge grind. You've gotten yours to 12, and if you do something else, either command or anything else, it's another huge grind. And just having that spread across a bunch of characters, you have it on one character, you kind of benefit from not having to do the grind over and over again.
Yeah, there's a lot of benefits to it. Like barding, peacemaking is obviously the way to go right now. Provocation could use some work. It's inevitable, I think, for something to happen to provocation, and I know all the bards are going to want to test it out. They're not going to want to make new characters, and they're not going to want to start over on their aspect to make a new character with provocation. So that's not a huge one, because peacemaking is not that difficult to level, but it still puts you out of playing. Say someone is a really dedicated streamer, they wouldn't be able to stream for 2 or 3 days because they have to sit there and waste time macroing to get their peacemaking back. They could instead dump their piece onto a soulstone and pick up provocation, and they're off. Maybe there's a mage tamer who wants to try a dexxer tamer for a while just to see if they like the playstyle more. That's another example. I don't want to make this all about a soulstone pitch, but I do think it has a lot of merit.
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk through it because I didn't really understand it fully, but it didn't sound like there's a lot of downsides. It comes with a lot of positives, and really with the ability to have 15, 18 characters anyways, they're kind of already giving us all the tools to bounce around all the builds anyways. We're just asking to have it down to 1 or 2 characters, which I don't think would hurt the game.
That was the number one excuse people were giving me, was just make a new character. And I don't want to do that. I want to be me. I want to be Wes Furtive. And then the next excuse was, oh, if you did that, everyone would have every crafting and no one would ever interact with each other. And I'm thinking, oh, so having 15 characters is not keeping me from running every craft? I don't have any crafts. I buy everything from everyone else because I don't want to be a crafter. So doing this would not make me a crafter at all. I just want to use the skills for their benefit in either PvP or PvM.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm with you. I think the server's headed in the right direction. I think the events are also amazing and fun. And just recently getting the brand new cavern dungeon. We're getting new levels to existing dungeons. We're getting more wilderness dungeons. The boss system, the new chain system. Just this week we got Corpse Creek contest, which sounds really cool. I'm not a PvPer. I made my PvP tune. I'm working him up to actually go learn and try it out, and see how that goes. Get some training, learn the macros you have to use and all that. But I mean, they're catering to every play style here. They had a huge focus with the trying to get the faction system going. I know they have more plans for that. The Corpse Creek thing is kind of proof that they do care about PvPers here. I saw the screenshots for it. They had something like 40 plus people in that one area killing each other.
Yeah, it's really cool. And like you said, they are aware of all the different players here. And Corpse Creek is a great example of something that appeals to everyone. Because it's not just a PvP thing. Whenever you win that, your guild gets a random buff for 4 hours, I think it was. Don't quote me on that, but that applies to your PvM guys. So you guys now maybe have plus 20% gold loot in Darkmire Temple or something. So there you go. PvPers do something fun and win a fight. And everyone in your guild who wants to go PvE in Darkmire is getting some benefit from it too for a few hours.
Yeah, so this is when my guild Beard Brothers is faulting for only having PvEers. I think we have to offload our reds to a different guild or even out of the guild. So
yeah, I'm thinking about making a PvM guild of my own. Really relaxed, just more or less just a group of people in a Discord to play together, and then eventually run bosses whenever they're up or whenever the guild accumulates enough points with the new system to summon one. But I'm having trouble coming up with a name. If I come up with a name, I think I'd just fire it off and do it, because I've got a lot of stealthers who would be willing to join, and I think running a party of 5 or 6 stealth archers would be a lot of fun to do a boss with.
Yeah, I've done it with 2. We have 3 or 4 others that are running one, and we definitely want to do a group with just 4 or 5 of us run out there and stack all that damage, and I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I think so too. I'd like to get a few, tamers, summoners, bards in there, because if you can get a bard proc off on a boss and then everyone just goes ham on it for a minute, it's huge boost. But I think if I were to make it, it wouldn't be exclusive based on my decision. I think just more people would want to join with their stealth archers than anything else.
All right, man. Anything else you want to talk about? Any other builds you're working on, having fun with lately? You want to touch on, or?
I did just switch over to Summoner Mage, which is fun. I don't like going the traditional route. It'll be a long time before I touch Taming. If I do, it'll probably be some stealth variant using Shade Wolves or the stealth Drake and Dragon combo.
I just found out about that today. The stealth pets here in Outlands, and that could be cool.
Yeah, I've seen some really impressive stuff. If you get there's a guy, Crazy Ivan. I think he's in Rack. He runs 5 Shade Wolves and full command. And he's a mage, so he'll get that command proc, and then just sick his little pets on it with a herding something in maybe Mount Petrum and one-shot them and just clean house. And it looks like a blast. I would love to try that. 1, just the stealth is cool. 2, that's a kind of a off-meta thing. Typically, people are running Blood Dragon and the Blood Slime, whatever that one's called, or the Phoenix and the Tank, that sort of thing. So if I was going to go Tamer, I'd want to try that. But at the moment, I haven't seen a lot of Summoners, so I wanted to give that a shot. It's also something I've tried previously, and they just increased mana regen by 10% if your intelligence is 100. And I wanted to run that paired with 120 Taste ID, which boosts the regen you get from your food. to try to go for a spammy build and maybe fish for more procs than go all in on DPS. Now, that said, if Soulstones were in, I would absolutely give the 120 Scribe version a shot. But for now, that one's a lot of fun. And next up, I think I want to try some funky water dexxer summoner to play off that, because my ultimate thing that keeps me going at the moment is the grind and the experimentation. So once I get to about, tier 10, probably Eldritch, I don't think I would go to T12 on anything besides Shadow. I'll be switching again, but I'm always looking to change it up. And one last thing that's got my attention is the Tinker Detect Hidden Placeable Traps build. I saw a guy just clean up an entire shrine with those, and I'd like to see if it's feasible to make that into an actual farming setup somehow. So I've been theory crafting, but that'll come a lot later, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, Luthie's put a lot of work into that system. It's all over the chest loot, the treasure hunting loot, and I haven't seen many people actually utilize it though. So it'd be awesome to see that in action, even from a did on your stream as like a knowledge type of thing where you could just go experiment with it and learn about it, see how it's working on Outlands, maybe find something that actually is workable.
Yeah, that's the main thing too. Like, a lot of people tell me you can just hop on the test center and test this stuff. I don't want to just hop on and test it. I want to play it. I want to play it for days, for weeks, and I want to interact with the community while doing it. I want to level it up. I want to see how it progresses. I want to see how it scales, how much stronger it gets at each level. I want to see what numbers I can push. What's the best dungeon to farm? I don't want to just run a 20-minute DPS test and call it quits. So I'd really like to be able to, test all of these things on the live server for some time while streaming.
Yeah, I mean, you got to factor into how much fun is it, how safe is it. The tamers and summoners are a lot of fun, but you're a big target too. You see all those pets, easy to find, easy to root out, easy to spot. This little stealth archer build you're running, you're kind of ducking and weaving in and out of things, hiding, easy to get away. Kind of high risk, or low risk, high DPS output. All of a sudden, then you're kind of back hidden.
Yeah, it's solid. You can still incorporate tracking on a tamer mage, for example. I know a buddy of mine, instead of running a Val, he runs tracking, so he's losing some spell damage, but he gains that sense of security.
Yeah, I'd have a hard time doing any future PVM build without tracking. I'm not going back.
I was getting chased on stream. I ran 4 or 5 dungeons, and the same PK crew, I guess they were trying to snipe me. They kept coming through, following me, and tracking let me know every time. So it was just inconvenient, but definitely probably the safest skill you can go with for dungeon farming.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. Are you dealing with a lot of griefers or any kind of stream sniping on the regular, or are people typically just letting you do your thing?
No, I've got really good relations with a lot of people, and I don't know if it's because I've helped so many people in these PK guilds with stealth questions that they just leave me alone. But that was actually the first instance of stream sniping I've had since I started streaming 2 months ago.
It seems like it's been down a lot. It never really was a thing to worry about here in Outlands. Maybe it's just people aren't used here to stream sniping, with it being such an old MMO, but that doesn't seem likely either. So I don't know why stream snipes aren't that big of a thing on Outlands.
I don't know, man. I think it's just it might be a respect thing. We've got a mature community who's been in the game for a long time. There's not a lot of little immature kids, I would say. I mean, we're still fun. We're still kids at heart, but I think everyone's kind of grown up, and it's just such a jerk move to stream snipe.
Well, there are griefers, and that's right up their alley. So I don't know.
I don't know, man. Maybe it's just me and my relations with everyone. I try to be positive. I try to not do anything that would make me a target. So I'm kind of playing my cards right in that aspect, I guess.
Oh, well, I mean, we interviewed Papa Carl. He was my guild leader for quite a long time too, and he never really got stream sniped either while he was streaming. And he is not as good a player as you. He's definitely like just more about enjoying the game, hanging out with friends, exploring, and he would get loot on his character every now and then, and no one would use the stream to go whack him and take his gold either. I don't know why Outland. Maybe you're onto something with it being a more mature player base. That's also one of the reasons why people think when WoW came in with its open world PvP, that's kind of where PvP changed, and it went from kind of a mature type of a grudge type system to where it was just fun to walk through the open world and kill anything you saw, and the griefing type of play styles. And
yeah, that and other MMOs like Darkfall, EverQuest. What's the other one? RuneScape, that sort of thing, where the goal of a lot of these games is just to kill anything you see. That doesn't seem to be the case here. We've got a lot of really, really good community members, and the PKs are known. I don't hate any of them, and it's actually fun, the risk, I think, of them coming through.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about an open world PvP sandbox is just the risk it adds all the rest of the game. Not to mention just actually going out PvPing with friends, but there has to be a proper repercussion from it. That's one of the big issues with Darkfall. There really wasn't. You kind of just kill the first thing you see in the open world. The decision between killing that person and letting him run by was never really there. It was always just, oh, I see someone, go kill them. Luthien knowing I've done some things here to make the red lifestyle harder, but still, even once you go red, you're still killing everything on sight. I don't know. I think there needs to be more repercussion or something to give the PvP more meaning, not just I'm out killing you, for shits and giggles, I guess.
Yeah, I think I heard they're working on stuff to make it less about go PK random blues in dungeons and more let's fight over something.
Yeah, that's I would eat that up. I PvP'd plenty in EVE Online. I really haven't here, and that's just because I like to go out with a goal, something I'm fighting over. Just out to go kill someone usually isn't my thing. So to get more of that here, which they've done some of that with the faction system, but anything to add to that, give guilds something to fight over. I know they have that the blood money system coming, where the guilds can put gold up and fight wars over certain like dollar amounts and stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I was in a guild I would want to do that, but a friendly war type of thing like the orcs have going on, that's been a thing in Ultima Online forever. Just, good, friendly, we hate you, let's fight. That's more my style.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your time and sharing with the Yo community your build and kind of your template knowledge here of Outlands.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
You got anything else you want to say or anything else you want to promote? Or how do they get to your Twitch stream?
I stream on twitch.tv/Wes Furtive. It's just my name.
Yeah, and if you ever get a YouTube video, you should definitely make a couple Outlands tutorials like your old Darkfall ones. I would eat it up, man.
Absolutely. I plan to. Just got to get around to it.
All right. Go to our website, InsideOutlands.com. You can join our Discord there. Talk to our guest, see when the next shows are up, and hop on live and listen to us if we ever do one of those again. We got another podcast coming with Karasho, the lead developer for the classic UO client. I've got some scheduling things with him. He's in Europe and I think in Italy. So I may not have an episode up by next Friday if I can't get another interview before then. So it might have one up like the following Monday.